Hello everyone, I'm Conrad Fischer, Professor of Medicine, Residency Program Director in Brooklyn. Welcome to ZurMed Show. I'm a residency director and I'm going to tell you all the secret things that residency directors look for that no one else but me is going to tell you. Special secrets. You know, there's something about telling people that something is a secret that makes it suddenly exciting. I'm going to tell you what everybody should know, and maybe you'll find it's confirmed and it will relax you. So a medical student came to visit me yesterday to ask some advice about how to get a residency, as has been happening for over 25 years. And he tells me, you know, he is from this medical school and he had this transcript and this citizenship. And then he says, well, I have a 254 on step 1 USMLE, because he still took the graded exam. And I go, well, you'll do fine. You know, just do as well on step 2 USMLE and you'll be in the door. You'll have more interviews than you know what to do with. Well, I got advice from another chairman, and he said, no, I should get myself a research job and I should publish a bunch of papers. And I go, no, you don't have to do that. You're just fine. And what should I do between the match and starting residency? I go to Paris. That's what I did. I showed up on like June 30th, midnight, coming in from a midnight flight from Paris. And I go, by the way, what are you applying in? And he says, oh, ophthalmology. I'm like, dude, that changes everything. You know how few ophthalmology spots there are compared to internal medicine? I thought you're applying in internal medicine. Internal medicine, there are more spots in internal medicine alone. In Brooklyn, there are more spots in internal medicine alone than all spots in every specialty in the entire country of Canada. You get how vast that is? But ophthalmology, there's only one program. 1, 2 spots, 3 spots a year. So it depends what you're going into. So in the United States, in the year 1910, there were about 180 medical schools in the United States. But there was no national standards. So they sent a dude named Flexner around to inspect the schools. And this guy inspected all the schools and goes, there's no labs, the classrooms are terrible, there's no science. And they shut more than half the schools in the country. So the schools start to grow up again until, of all people, President Nixon says, we're going to pay you to grow the number of schools. And the number of schools goes up to about 125 by the 1980s. Now, then people go, oh, there's too many US medical schools. There's going to be too many doctors. Doctors are going to be driving taxis. It's a special New York City thing. You know, yeah, if somebody's really highly qualified and they need a second job, the second job is always driving a taxi. Now driving an Uber. So we stopped opening new medical schools. But the interesting thing is, when we stopped opening these new medical schools, there were 14,000, 15,000 graduates every year of medical school. But there were 18 or 20,000 residency spots. So it meant that automatically, if you were a US graduate, you were considered special just for being a US graduate. And automatically, it meant that 25, 30% of all residency positions in the country were given to international doctors. Because we don't say foreign. I mean, what does foreign mean? International. And it stayed that way for the next 30 years. And 30 years later, people go, oh my God, there's not enough doctors. We need more doctors. We're all going to die. And the number of new schools opened. And then the number of graduates goes 14, 16, 18,000, 20,000, and shoots up. Oh, look, now there's no more graduates than there are positions. Because what happened is that the number of residency spots went up to. And that's where we are today. And where we are today is that the program directors are looking at the EROS application service to see what you look like. Can they look into your soul? Can they look and see what a fine and committed person you are? Can they look and see how much work you've done exactly? No. But look on the bright side. If you're lazy and you've got a lousy soul and you don't mean well at all, they can't see that either. But how are we going to select you? Should we select you based on the personal statement? The personal statement. They all sound the same and they're half phony. It's not a literary contest. Also, in internal medicine, even a small program is getting 3,000, 4,000 applicants, 4,500 applicants. I have over 4,000 applicants now. I'm not reading 4,000 personal statements because it's not a literary contest. How about letters of recommendation? Well, 95% of letters are positive because the letter writer wants to make you look good, wants to help you. So the letter writer often doesn't know you much. I get students asking me for letters, things like this. Hi, I presented to you one case on one day. Can I have a letter of recommendation? Or I rounded with you for 2 days a year ago. Can I have a letter? Who are you? My ultimate favorite was 2 medical students on their first day showing up at my office saying, we haven't worked together yet at all. Can I have a letter of recommendation? So the letters tend to be like when they do introductions at award shows. We're here to give an award to a fantastic humanitarian, a wonderful performer, an outstanding, terrific person. Everybody's wonderful. This is, as they say, 100%. That was just edited out. I edited it out because I don't want to say bullshit. The letters. I never saw a letter that say, John is an idiot. John's a moron. John can't count from 1 to 10 without losing consciousness. I might interview that person just to see what they were like. Next, MSPEs, the former thing known as a dean's letter. The deans in the medical schools are supposed to tell us honestly how good their student is. And they're supposed to tell us who's great and who's outstanding, who's in the middle, and who shouldn't have gone to medical school at all. And the medical school, the MSPEs are not accurate. Because the dean, hello? Yes, I'm the dean of the medical school. Yeah. What? Half the class went unmatched. No job, huh? What happened? Oh, you mean we accurately told them how everybody is and they didn't take them? Oh, there's like a used, by the way, haven't I told you? There's like a car dealership. Get these cars off the lot. So the deans are going to say, I can't have all these cars on the lot. Say everybody's outstanding. And that's what happens. Letters, research. Do you know there's so many applicants, we often can't get to look at the research criteria. Plus, how many students really can publish first-class papers while running through medical school? That's a really hard thing to do. That's a real hard step. But I'll tell you, where that matters is in the small subspecialties that have very few spots. Derm, ophthalmology, ENT, orthopedics. And that's why, for the student who came to see me yesterday, he said, I got very different advice from you. I was told to take a research job and publish a lot. Because, dude, you're applying in a specialty that has very small spots. They might only be getting 50 or 70, 150. Okay, 250 applicants. Because some people are applying to half the programs in the country, if not all. And they're able to actually look through 200 or 300 applications. And they go look for your research. And that's whether you're US or international graduate, if you're looking in a very highly competitive specialty, dermatology, 1 program in Brooklyn, ophthalmology, 1 program. Then they'll look through and see if you've got a research experience. So how are we going to choose? And at the end of the day, here's what we look at. Where did you go to school? If I asked you to name 20 medical schools in the United States, you probably could. But the United States now has 160 medical schools, and India has 600. I've been a program director a long time. Could I name more than 5 or 7 schools in India? That'd be tough. And even in America, how do you know? For instance, how many schools are there in the University of Texas system? How many in the University of Illinois? University of California? New York State, where we are right now, SUNY. Doesn't that look like Sunny? Yeah, but it's only one N. The state university system, there's 4 schools. Stony Brook, upstate, which is in Syracuse, Buffalo, downstate, which is in Brooklyn. Which is the best of them? Well, define best. Ooh, that's a hard one. How do you define best? But the point is, do you think you'd be able to say which one was the best of all of those? What about all the schools that are opening up and have opened up in the last 10 years? Would you be able to say? So what ends up happening is that the program directors get a few favorite schools, depending on what people like. And that's often a code word to saying, are you a US versus international medical graduate? Now, there's a lot of strong feelings on both sides of this, and I understand both sides to a certain degree, but let's say it's like this. There are a lot of places that don't have the universal standard accreditation system that you have in the United States. That the LCME, the Accreditation Committee for Medical Schools in the United States, goes through and inspects and say, come on, you got to hit your standards. You got to be precise. You got to do this and report this and provide this and give that, and we're going to come back and inspect you. And there are a lot of places that don't have those uniform standards. So that's why international is much more variable. Much more variable. So we can see where you went to schools. How about the transcript? Well, the transcript has become effectively useless in almost all students, or at least half. Because if the first 2 years are pass-fail, what does that mean if you just got a pass and 90% of students passed? Second, in the third year, 60 and 70% of the grades can be honors and outstanding and above average. Yes, everybody's above average. Why? Because the students want to like you, you want to like them, and there's overgrading. The other thing is, in the highest end Ivy League schools, if a student in the third year doesn't get an above average grade, he shows up with his father and his lawyer in the dean's office. I'm telling you. So transcripts are relatively unreliable because of pass-fail, overgrading in the third year. Now let's talk about internationally. I once asked a guy, what was your grade average in medical school? And he says, 470. 470. Out of what? 1,000? Or out of 500? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. And, that's like me saying, hey, Greg, I like you a lot. You're really smart. You're really talented. I'm going to pay you 1,000 an hour. 1,000 an hour. 1,000 an hour. Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, 1,000 yen. Japanese yen an hour. Oh, you didn't tell me that. So it's like currency exchange. What does that mean when you have that grade between the different schools? It's very hard to interpret. Now you know why USMLE and COMLEX become so important. Because you have schools, scores, and the last thing is visa status. The scores are critically important because it's the only universal measure between the schools. The only universal international measure that you can say, this number of people take it, and you go, okay, let's do some statistics. Here, now, one standard deviation, you have 34% above the mean, 34% below the mean, because 68% of people within one standard deviation of the mean. So if I say that the average score on step 2 is a 240, and you tell me that you got a 255, and the standard deviation is 15, well, all the statistics, you got to know this anyway because statistics are part of the test. Well, I got a 240. Oh, well, your average. Oh, Dr. Fischer, I got a 255. Ooh, I'm in the 84th percentile. Oh, no, Dr. Fischer, I got a 270. Oh, 97th percentile. 97.5 to be precise, 97th percentile. The same way. Oh, Dr. Fischer, I'm great. I have an average score. I have a 225. No, you're in the 16th percentile because you're one standard deviation below the mean. No, you're in the bottom 15, 16%. So you understand this issue about standard deviation. You can't understand the grades without knowing all the values, a Gaussian or normal distribution. And that's why when somebody says, I got a 475, well, what's the average? What's the standard deviation? I can't understand that. I can't interpret that grade. USMLE, we go, no, if you have a 255, you're ahead of 84% of people. If you have a 270, you're in the top 3%. And that you can understand. And that's why USMLE takes on such an importance, because it cuts through all of the over-advertising. So there are two ways that people think about USMLE. Program directors go, well, scores are not everything, but they're not nothing. They're not nothing. They're not everything, but they're not nothing. It gives us something to assess people. It's an assessment tool. Other people want to say this. That test is not measuring anything important. I didn't do that well, but I'm just a bad test taker. But it doesn't measure real knowledge. It's just measuring test-taking tricks, but I know just as much. And they try and discredit the value of the test by trying to claim that the test doesn't measure anything meaningful. Well, you choose. You choose. Now, since step 1 went pass-fail, the idea of making it pass-fail is people go, it'll relax the students. It'll take the stress out of things. I was with a medical school class today for 2 hours, and at the end of it, I said, how many of you took the test pass-fail? Everybody, almost everybody. Okay, did pass-fail make you feel more relaxed? And there was like, nobody. Last thing, visas. There are some hospital systems that just don't take visas. They don't want to be bothered, they don't want to process it through. So if people are international graduates or US graduates, and maybe you're Canadian and went to a US school, less places take visas and you have to do better on your USMLE. So this is, to summarize, how program directors look at you. Schools, scores, and visas. Schools, scores, and visas. Now, why is it that in my own residency, we get such a high quality and our average is out here? Because we're in the fortunate position of being able to grant visas. And you can get a lot higher scoring people. So scores are not everything, but they're not nothing. I've just shown you what things look like. Some people, for international graduates, really prize United States clinical experience. Some people don't care. Some people really still defend the personal statement. But the personal statement is not used to tell who to interview. The personal statement is used to assess people after they've been selected for interview. The MSPEs, the dean's letters, are not used to select for interview. They're used to tell about people when they're in interview. As such, these things, research, letters, personal statement, MSPE, and transcript, have some value after you've been selected for interview. But the program directors in general can only interview 10 to 15% of the applicant pool in their area. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm Conrad Fischer. I approve this message. Welcome to this small show from ZurMed. We hope we're helpful to you. And if you see me sometime into the future, feel free to say hello and stop me on the street and say, I saw you, you're that guy with all that, you're the guy that didn't refill his lithium. Yes, that's me. See you soon.